Welcome back, and wipe your feet off on the mat. And before you've watched this, make sure you've watched that. Look, I know you've got questions in your think, thank, thought vat, and I know sometimes it seems that I've got the thought track of a barrel gnat, but I know the whole picture, and there's a lot in store. So kick your shoes off by the door, hip hip hooray, they came back for more. So hi, I'm Will Help, this could help, and let's burrow a little further into it, yeah? Real quick recap of last episode. Simply put, in the beginning, God and nothing. You're made of God. The loving God rule and the loving your fellow man rule are the same rule. And, well, we didn't really get into it, but you can love God by loving your fellow man. I heard a couple of you cynically chuckle that easier said than done, huh?
What do we do now? We could hug. Yeah, you'd like that.
But I spent a large chunk of my life finding it very difficult to love God, as well as being exceedingly difficult to love several specific members of my fellow men and women. It's easy to get wrapped up in those other feelings of annoyance and frustration, and we forget that we're supposed to have love for them. This actually became a topic of discussion with a coworker of mine who saw the God and Nothing episode. I was asked, so we're all made of God and we're all supposed to just love each other and that'll fix us? To which I replied, I haven't finished what I'm saying yet. When I was much younger and before I found all this, I used to say that falling in love with someone is effortless, like falling. But loving God can be hard, like swimming upstream. And you have to admit, it's hard to love someone you can't wrap your arms around and give a loving squeeze or simply shake hands or, bro with. Someone whose words you rarely, if ever, hear with your physical ears, and it's really hard to love someone whose face you can't even imagine. And that actually is something that I take issue with, the idea of man being made in God's image physically. The idea of God limited down to a corporeal form has always been unrealistic to me. After all, everything that I've seen seems to indicate that anything that creates something, the creator has to be significantly more complex than that which they created. In most cases, way more complex. And the complexity of a sentience that created everything and so perfectly and precariously balanced each system within each system just right to get the earth and the universe up and running, well, let's just say it's got to be significantly more advanced than, the Homo sapiens who were monkey men not long ago, relatively speaking. I mean, we only started harnessing electricity like 220 years ago, and a big thank you to Alessandro Volta for kicking that off. But please don't get me wrong, I love us. We are just beautifully and geniusly designed and suited for our terrain with our bilateral symmetry and bipedal locomotion, which is getting around on two legs. In fact, we have a pretty strong arch and 5 individual weight and balance redistribution flaps per foot. I suppose you would call those toes. Our eyes, capturing an unreal amount of detail by playing catch with photons, about half of which ultimately came from our closest star. You can't make this stuff up. It's insane. Our ears capture all manner of disturbances of the air by way of molecules bumping into each other and waves, and then shipping all that information off to the brain, to which these signals from our eyes are also being sent. Different portions of the brain brilliantly decode and simultaneously interpret the information, making it possible for most people to locate and identify most things by sight. And all of these designs within us are phenomenally tailored towards allowing us to survive and create and grow and share that which we find to be good and to improve. We're rather ideally designed for our existence within this atmosphere and this atmospheric pressure. But God don't need feet, y'all. Nor does he need weight and balance toes or an ear or eyes or lungs or bilateral symmetry. Our design benefits us in nearly every single way, given where we are and where exactly it is that we exist, specifically the dimensions that we exist within, the 3 dimensions of space and the sliver of the 4th dimension, time. However, God would see no benefit of being designed in the same way. So the idea of the big white beard was a no-go for me. So was the made in God's image trope, but then I found it. There's this muscular organ you have that spends its days and nights squeezing away different tempos set by your body's needs. While a remarkable valve system, the heart has no neurons or neural pathways that could account for the heart being the origin point of emotions. Not to mention, outside of the fight or flight instinctual emotions, we still have no idea where the origin point of emotions is. And yet, the muscular organ, your heart, is so frequently associated with love, sadness, joy, grief. Kid's got a good heart. Heart of gold. Heartbroken? Wearing one's heart on their sleeve. Heartaches. Bleeding heart. I'm going to take that to heart. Oh, bless your heart. A change of heart. Don't lose heart. Oh, come on, pal, have a heart. Young at heart. That's definitely me. A lonely heart. Cross my heart and hope to die. Oh, it touches the heart and plays the heartstrings. Now, it may not be the actual heart that feels these things, but whoo-hoo. We feel them, something fierce, and in that area. You know, when you've done somebody wrong, and knowingly that it was wrong, and you did it anyways, that part of you that turns over in disgust and guilt in the center of you, or that hole that you just bleed out of when someone you love dearly suddenly dies, or that part of you that shines like the sun when you are loving dearly. Now, you may make mistakes in interpreting the emotions, but the part of you that the emotions come from doesn't lie to you, ever. There's this emotional core to you, and while the physical heart is like the rest of you and the rest of the material, tangible, measurable world of things, there is a crucial part of you that isn't like that at all. That center of you, it's intangible, immeasurable. It's a lot more similar to its maker than anything else in our bodies. Some people call it a soul, a spirit, a consciousness, and each one of them out there, no matter how annoying, no matter how much of an asshole, they've got one too. And you can love that part of them. And it can be a lot easier to love that part of them than to love the whole package deal. You know, that part of them is honest and still loves, but can also be badly abused. And the head, which is typically behind the wheel when it comes to decision making, can be rotten through. But that part of them that feels is still there. Although a lot of people have gotten pretty good at tying up and gagging it.
Quiet, you!
So you learn to take pity on the truth-telling and tangible part of them that's along for the ride through all their bad decisions, and try to rejoice in those moments when their heart convinces their head on the right decisions. You are loving the part of them that is made in God's image. And when you do this, and I do hope that you'll try to do this, please try to do this, but when you love that part of them, you are loving that part of Him. You can love Him there by loving Him here through that part of you and part of them that was made in God's image. It's right there in front of you the whole time. Love the heart, consciousness, soul, whatever it is, and let that advise you on how to have pity and forgive their heads. And I have to tell you, when you start doing this in earnest, God becomes a whole lot more present, and your core gets a lot louder. I think that center of you already knows Him pretty well, and loving God quickly becomes less like swimming upstream and more effortless, like falling. So, Like it if you loved it, and leave it if you thought it. Subscribe if you dare, and share if you care to see a little more of this out there. I'm Will Help, and this could help. See you guys next time, and goodbye, you wonderful people who matter so much. So much. In fact, we have really strong arches and 5 individual, that's 5. 5, well, don't worry about me. Probably just fall off again anyway.